Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the best way to pay your bills. I have like excellent, super excellent credit and low debt ratios and all the stuff that I want to strive to help other people to get to. And so I want to kind of save and share my methodologies. So I was just sitting there going through my bills, and it's always like a kind of tedious process because you want to double and triple check things. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I wonder if people care about this. And I did a quick little SEO search and it appears that people do. So I really would love to hear if you find this helpful or not. So please, please, please drop me a comment. So best way to pay your bills can go a lot of different ways. I'm really going to take you step by step on how I do it. And it has worked successfully for me for many, many years. I have like excellent, super excellent credit and low debt ratios and all the stuff that I want to strive to help other people to get to. And so I want to kind of save and share my methodologies. So what I do is, first of all, I just sit down and I open everything, okay? And then I kind of sort it out. So I guess the people with the charities have like got me on their list, if you will. So I get like 10 million charity envelopes a week. And so I separate those and I put those out, and I find that those are the majority of the stuff that comes in. Then the next thing I do is I go through and I get rid of anything that is just totally junk that I don't need. And then I go through anything that's handwritten, and I kind of start there because usually that's something fun or like a nice little card or handwritten note. So then I'll go there next. And I kind of put that in the bill stack, but I start by reading those because those are always kind of like little happies, if you will. So then I go through and I start out with the bills. So the first thing I have here is a credit card statement. Now what you want to remember about your credit cards, and this does not work perfectly all the time because life can throw curveballs, and I can understand that completely. In a perfect world, what you want to do with your credit card all of the time is to pay your balance in full each and every month so that you use their money for 30 days for free without paying any interest. If your credit card bill is, let's use this one for an example, $3,494.55, if I pay $3,494.55 in full, I'm going to pay no interest. But even if I make a $3,300 payment and just leave less than $200 left, I will pay interest on the whole $3,494.55. So try as you can to pay those off in full every month so you use their money for free. Then the next thing I do is I go through and I look at the due date. Now, this might be something silly that I do, that I'll explain about, that I do with the due dates, but it's just how I am. So next thing I'm going to do before we circle back to the due date is I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at every single transaction, because it's not like it used to be, you know, where you can just simply balance a checkbook and you don't have 8,000 things coming out. With so many things being electronic now, and before you know it, you're signed up for Apple for 99 cents or $4.99, or then you've got Peacock for $5.99, and then you've got HBO whatever, and so all these things that just add up, and they're just dollars and dollars and little bits that just kind of add up, and then you just don't even know, and then you don't even know you have the subscription, right? So many things can go through. So I do this for a multitude of reasons. One, because I want to make sure that my information has not been stolen. I want to make sure that no one's using my credit card. I want to make sure that the charges are actually mine. And then the next thing that I want to do is, and you may or may not need to do this, is I go through and categorize each expense. Now, if you're not self-employed, if you are not a statutory W-2, if you are not a 1099, if you are not a K-1, you might not want to do this. Or maybe you do. Because if you categorize these things, and depending upon what software you use can use something as simple as Excel, or as simple as pen and paper and a calculator, or more things complicated like Mint and things like that, right? And they will show you where your money's going. So I do like the idea of you doing it even if you're not self-employed. But So I go through and I mark everything, like what's personal versus what is business, so on and so forth. Of course, I have to have the coinciding receipts with notes on them if I'm marking it for business, and talk about who and when and why and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I love seeing fees charged, $0. Total interest charged, $0. That's always like what I love to look at. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I like to do it through the online bill pay through your bank. And that way it is traced and it's tracked. And sometimes they have to mail it, but most of the time it's automated, just transfer. And the other reason I like to do that is because I'm silly about it. So this statement is actually due on the 21st of a month. So I'll go ahead today, which is the beginning of the month. I've got the bill. I'll go ahead and schedule the bill out, but I'm going to schedule it to come out on the day that it's due. Like, I don't want to give them my money any day or minute or hour sooner than I need to give them my money. Even if I'm earning less than a fraction of 1% in interest in my bank, that is my fraction of my 1%, and I want to keep it. So that's the first thing. So I'll go through, do all that. Now, the next thing I have here is a bank statement, okay? And the same thing, you want to look at it the same way. You want to make sure that nobody has stolen your information, taking money from your bank, and so on and so forth. So you kind of go through. So this one's super simple, just a quick little checking account. I can eye it up in just a minute because there's not much activity that goes on it. So now I put my little check so that I know I've got it there. And then you can save things either in a printed file or a folder, or you can scan it into different softwares that they have options to do. We've got another bank statement. I've already gone through this one because this one's a much longer one. But I go in and I look at the deposits, make sure those are right, make sure those are me. I look at what was there, what came out, what went in, what is left, make sure that it makes sense to me. I go through each of the debits to make sure that they are mine. And sometimes it helps me with checks and balances because, speaking of Peacock, not to pick on them, but I realized that I had signed up for that for like $5 a month, and I realized that I'm really not using it. And so I told myself, well, I'm going to go ahead and just cancel that. Well, when I went through my bank, of course, then I forgot because life happens. And when I went through my bank statement and I saw the charge, it reminded me, oh, let me go ahead right now real quick and go ahead and turn that off. So it can help you find your mistakes a lot faster and things that you want to take care of as far as canceling different subscriptions a lot faster if you do this. So let's see, I'll skip this statement. Okay, so then we have another credit card, and that's going to be done the exact same way as far as pay the balance in full every single month, look through all the transactions, make sure that they're mine, categorize them if need be, schedule the auto pay through the bank on the day that it's due, so they'll be received on the day that it's due, so that it's never late, but you can keep your money in your account as long as physically possible. Okay, next thing you've got, which are a lot easier to kind of go through, would be like your utility bill. So you want to go through that, make sure that it makes sense. A lot of things, this is what I very importantly want to say. A lot of you might be saying, well, I put things on auto pay, and that's fine. And I have some things on auto pay as well. Even if they're on auto pay, autopilot, whatever, I still want a paper statement, and I still want to make sure that that auto pay is set up. I cannot tell you as a loan officer how many times I've had a conversation with someone where their credit is screwed up because they thought something was auto pay. It is on you. It is your fault. It is your problem to make sure that the auto pay and everything goes through on your bills. So I'll kind of look at the statement, I'll run through it, make sure that it makes sense, make sure that it's in line. Like sometimes if you have a gas leak or something dramatic, like you might see a big spike in your bill. Well, I don't want to see that big spike in my bill when it's already left my bank account, right? I want to look at the statement, make sure the balances make sense, make sure it's in line with the previous month. I want to physically, this is just me, but I want to physically circle where it says auto debit, because sometimes people are human on the other side and they might press a button. Somebody that doesn't even know me that's doing accounting could press a button and turn me off of auto pay and ruin my credit. Nobody means to do it. So I want to see and circle auto pay. And I'll do that with different things like the utility bills, landscaping, internet, like all those kind of things. But you want to look at that because there's even been times where you might have an internet provider and somebody somehow is able to start streaming things and charge your account for movies that they're watching. If you're looking at this and analyzing it, even if you're on auto pay, you're gonna make sure that these things are taken care of. Now, what some people do is they still have physical files for all these things. And some people, because they're on auto pay and it's just a standard recurring thing, like a utility, a lot of times that'll just get shredded and thrown away and not actually saved, because you can always go log in and look at that. I wouldn't do that for like a credit card, because that's a lot more to log in and look at, because there's a lot more transactions. With your utilities, it's like your bill's due, you paid your bill, your balance is zero, now you have a new bill due. So I found like that's easier to kind of go back and maintain. So if you're doing auto pay, make sure it's getting done. Go through your accounts, make sure that no charges are being done that actually are not yours. That way you can make sure no one has stolen your information. It also prepares you for how much money you need to plan. If I know this bill's coming up next week, then I might not go out to that extra dinner or something, because I want to make sure that credit card is paid off in full, and that's something else that you can kind of use and try to use leverage as planning for planning purposes as well. And again, if you want to use ways to track this, the beautiful thing is, even if you're not self-employed, K-1, 1099, statutory W-2, any of those things, then you still might want to be able to do this and just plug it into a software or system, or use your pen and paper checks and balances and figure out, where's all your money going? Because I know a lot of us have that question all the time. Like, we make good money and like, where in the world does the money go? Well, if you do that for a few months, then you might realize, hey, I have an addiction to the coffee store, or hey, I have an addiction to Target because I go in there for ground meat, and next thing I know, I spent $100 because there's so many cute kitchen towels or whatever else might apply. And it kind of helps you keep yourself in line with your bills and also your budget. And then also, don't just set a budget with just out of nowhere. Like, if you track this stuff for a little while and you get an idea of where you are and where maybe you could be, then that might be a right step forward to then start setting up your budget from there, because the last thing you want to do is set yourself up for failure and disappointment. You want to set yourself up for something that might work and that you might feel rewarded and positive about completing. So hopefully that helps you with how to pay your bills. I'm Stephanie Weeks, 18-year loan officer, and if you need any help with mortgage financing, I can help you at 985-300-LOAN or weeksteam.com. Hopefully you're subscribing, hopefully you like the video, and please drop me a comment. I would love to hear from you. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.